Well, salutations, my brethren. You won't believe what I've been put in charge of. I actually have to make Solomon great because of the Soulburning Volcano. That's right, so the big guys decided to put me in charge with the new Solomon Great support. So I decided to mix this methane carboxylic acid and this sodium bicarbonate, and also using this Solomon Great card to be able to get results. All right, let's see what we have here. It's going to be my greatest creation. Holy, it's like what happened in my 5th grade math class. Oh my God, Mrs. D. This is exactly like the time I erupted. The top rogue Yu-Gi-Oh decks post Soulburning Volcano. I don't know about you, but I erupted when I heard about that set. Today, I will be ranking rogue decks in 5 different categories here, giving you a view on how easy these strategies are to play against some of the top Yu-Gi-Oh decks and the top Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And what are we using for a definition of rogue? Fairly competitive, underrepresented. God damn it. Bro, the decks that don't get enough play, like you. Of course, Big Dog, if your deck did not make it, I want you guys to post down below in the comment section. Maybe your deck is a little bit too competitive, or maybe I covered it in my budget tier list and didn't want to keep on doubling as we win. There's gonna be a little bit of overlap, but I don't want nothing but over. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this video so we can talk about these rogue decks. Okay, Big Dog, so the criteria, simple. How well can some of these rogue decks play into some of the top decks in the game? Some of the most popular decks in Yu-Gi-Oh right now are Branded, Kashtira, Labyrinth, Hoodlie, and Dragons. My guy, if you give these rogue decks a chance, it might not be any of those by the time the format gets around. Another thing that these rogue strategies should consider is how well that these strategies can play into or play some of the most popular cards. Right now, I would say kaiju-like cards, but there's also hand traps like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Drolin Lockbird, and Nibiru. Those cards are really good right now. Another thing to note about these rogue decks is that I wouldn't say that any of them are completely terrible. It's just the higher you are, the easier it is to be able to play these rogue decks into the format right now. Let's go ahead and start off with ABC. This deck, Revolution Synchron, started a revolution. The combos with ABC are completely crazy, though it does have a couple of blind spots, one being Kashtira Riceheart and then the other being Drolin Lockbird. Overall though, I would say that this is still a solid choice Yu-Gi-Oh deck. One of the biggest draws to ABC is that not only can it finish games quickly by setting up multiple negations, it's also a deck that can play well into negations provided that you play the correct cards. I genuinely like ABC as you'll be dragging busters all over the floor when you get them W's. Altergeist Malwisp is one thick mama. She doesn't have a tail, she's not getting nailed. She doesn't have a tail, she's not getting nailed. She doesn't have a tail, she's not getting nailed. Think, Callie. I will still say that Altergeist is pretty good though. It is 100% a solid choice in the Yu-Gi-Oh right now, and I just so happen to have made a $100 version of this deck that could be transferable to other rogue or budget decks, which is really cool. Altergeist is probably one of your control floodgatey combo decks out right now because it can make some of those huge boards, but also back them up with negations and still being able to play cards like Secret Village of the Spellcasters and Rivalry of the Warlords. Battling Boxers, my boys. The first strategy that we got to talk about that got support out of Soulburning Volcano. I'm just saying, you want this? You want this? Get you with the combo. Unfortunately for right now, I would say Battling Boxers need to figure out some of its combos, maybe switch to Southpaw or something, because I would 100% say it's experimenting. My beef with Battling Boxers right now isn't necessarily the support. I would actually say the support is crazy good. But the problem with Battling Boxers is through testing and watching other people play with it, it seems slow. Basically what I'm saying, if it can't set up any counter punches or anything, it's gonna get knocked out. One thing I will say though is Battling Boxer Promoter, that's a cold card. Holy God. Bro, anything that say summon from deck, that's my boy. Chimera is ridiculously good. I don't know about you, but drawing cards on my opponent's turn while also simultaneously destroying their cards through Guardian Chimera has been pretty successful. It's a deck that has so many variants. There's a branded version, there's a Kashtira version. Hell, even Labyrinth players are starting to get into fun and starting to use Chimera cards. The deck's versatility and advantage engine is just crazy, and it's not something to be slept on. Now, I got to talk to a close friend that has been playing Code Talkers for quite some time, and he says that the deck is extremely good, if you know what you're doing. It takes a great deal of brain power to be able to play the Code Talker strategy, and to be honest, I thought it was just an extra link type deck. No, it's actually way more than that. Code Talker has the uniqueness of being able to link summon from the hand and search powerful cards like Signet Codec to continuously get advantage, and Signet Conflict to be able to stop your opponent's strongest cards. I would say it takes a really good pilot to be able to manage because there are easier Cyberse decks to play, and those decks give you a reward without as much work. But one thing I will say is that those other Cyberse decks don't have the same skill ceiling, so that's something you need to watch out for. Dinos, my boy, nothing has changed since the last list that we put Dinos in. The deck is still inconsistent as all hell, but hey, when Dinos pop off, boy, playing this deck is like waiting on your next hit of copium. When you get it, but it's just not worth it. Now, I like how Dogmatica can take advantage of decks that are reliant on the extra deck, but unfortunately, there aren't too many decks that are ultra reliant on the extra deck. Outside of that, Dogmatica's best bet is Nightmare Corruptor Ibly Lock and Secret Village of the Spellcasters. I know 2 decks that kind of do those better if they wanted to. Evil Tiles, my guy. Walmart Dinos. Dinos at home. You remember going to the grocery store and your mama would get you the bag of cereal instead of the box? That's what Evil Tiles are. Evil Tiles can make some of the crazy Dino Boards decks using all of your hands and way more effort. This is just throw the deck in the volcano by now. I absolutely love how fire decks are getting more support. This ain't it though. Generators actually just so happen to have done really well at the Remote Duel Extravaganza, incorporating Invoked. The thought process behind this is that since Invoked can easily make Invoked Mechaba, you can World Legacy Monstrosity into it for generator monsters, but then there's also Revolution Synchron, turning Alistair into an Ancient Fairy Dragon and turning your Meltdown into your Generator Pulse stage. It's some really cool intricacies between those two strategies, but I would say that it takes a really good pilot. I think that Generator's topping is more of an anomaly than a norm, and it's still a really good deck if you know what you're doing. Gold Pride slept on, my boy. This deck can not only draw into hand traps and play under hand traps, it's a deck that makes hand traps look silly. The deck's way too good at what my ex does, gobbling up effects. Damn. Despite some of the known problems of Trolling Lockbird, Bestials, and those Dimension Shifter-like cards, I would still say Dark Worlds are a solid choice, and the reason why is because it just got more support to make it consistent, putting on your opponent on, you better have those cards. Look, my guy, I know games 2 and 3, it'll probably be a struggle, but game 1? Odds are we could do some damage in game. I think that Dark World would have to switch up from the hand loop to maybe a going second or control style. And I also think that heroes are one of the better choices in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Now, don't get me wrong, these rogue strategies do have their fair share of problems, but hero players have shown time after time again, they are ready to rise up to the occasion and smash a player's face in. They're like the All Might of Yu-Gi-Oh. The thing that I like about these rogue tier lists so much is that I also get to talk about where I was wrong. Infernoble best deck, huh? It's a top meta deck, huh? It's gonna kill everything, huh? Yeah, that's not it. Infernoble, in my opinion, aren't even the best rogue deck. Now, don't get me wrong, Infernoble is still really good, and everything that I said about Infernoble still rings true. It can make some really tough negation boards to break, and it's a very good combo deck that actually got support with Battling Boxers, making them more combo-y. But the problem with Infernoble, once it loses its momentum, it loses fairly hard. And if we're going to compare them to combo decks, I would 100% say the Synchron deck is incredible. It actually has the ability to play around hand traps and can make some very ferocious boards with follow-up. My guy, drawing 6 cards while you're making your board is pretty good. I think that this deck is incredibly strong and has so many avenues to be able to make boards, you cannot sleep on this deck. Marine Sus, boys. Another strategy that actually did well at the Remote Duel Extravaganza, I think that it's a solid choice Yu-Gi-Oh deck. The reason why Marine Sus are so good is because it escapes so much in the game. It doesn't search as much as some of these other decks in the game, making that it's less susceptible to cards like Droll and Lockbird, and it also can play a ton of hand traps in itself to be able to stop the opponent. It's really good, especially since you can search Marine Sus Wave, which is a walking infinite impermanence. The strategy is extremely good, but one that I would say isn't is Mathmech. The biggest problem with Mathmech is that it is so reliant on Super Fractorial, and once a Bestial monster or a Ghost Spell or something like that hits it, the deck almost auto loses. On top of that, with Mathmech Circular to 1, it's had huge implications on the deck. Yes, you can build the board with Mathmech Circular, but you can't win the game now. That one hit alone has severely crippled the deck, and I think it should come off the list maybe to a semi-limited to make it competitive again. Makanko, my guys! I think Makanko is a really interesting deck because it doesn't play in conventional means, but I will admit that it does take a player that knows exactly what they're doing to be able to pilot this deck to success. Who would have thought ramming your monsters into other monsters would actually take a brain to do? Kaiju monsters and Lava Golem are pretty big, and this is a strategy that can take full advantage of them. With the right pilot, I think it can do some crazy good things. Rescue Ace! Like seriously, Konami, what's up with all the fire support? Evil Towels, Infernobles, Battling Boxers, Solomon Great, Volcanics, Rescue Ace. What you trying to say, Konami? Their company's on fire and they don't know what to do. Rescue Ace is a top rogue Yu-Gi-Oh deck. In my opinion, it's almost disgusting to even put this in the rogue category. This deck is crazy good. And another thing to note is that it's almost ridiculous how 2 cards have completely changed the fortunes of Rescue Ace. We said it was a bad Yu-Gi-Oh strategy for the longest, and now it is a genuine contender. Now, Solomon Great is a tough. On one hand, you have 1-card combos that can search you your Solomon Great trap cards, which is crazy. On the other hand, you also have 1-card combos that end on a Nibiru token. Crazy. But the good thing about Solomon Great is that you have 4 other cards in your hand. I would say that Solomon Great has the potential to be a top rogue Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Solomon Great Rage for 4 is crazy, especially when you're going against a back row heavy deck like Labyrinth, and being able to negate important cards is also huge, especially when you're going against decks like Brandon. I think Solomon Great really does have a chance after Soulburning Volcano to be a great deck. Let's face it, guys, the only good players at Sky Striker should be a part of a registry. My guy Ray is not Bay. She's not. From a competitive standpoint, the biggest problem with Sky Striker is that it's severely power crept, and you're going to need a player to be able to compensate for that. I would actually say the exact same thing for Sword Soul. At any given time, I have a rule for myself when I want to play Sword Soul. Is Nibiru popular? If the answer is yes, I wouldn't bother. And it's not because a skilled Sword Soul player can't play around Nibiru, it's that your boards are just so ridiculously weak, you actually get to feel power creep. But on the other side, almost everything else is free for Sword Soul. It's kind of crazy. Tier limit, my guy. Master Duel players, you're gonna be wild when I tell you that this is it. The support for tier limit inside of Duelist Nexus was crazy, and none of them said tier limits in their name. So get ready to have those tears drop when those tears drop. They're still good. I think Thunder Dragon could be considered as a clone of the Dragon Link deck, but it also does have its benefits, not being synchro reliant and being a little bit heavier on the board breaking. But to be honest, I'm literally the only player that I know that even touches Thunder Dragon, so that's why I put it in experimental. Trap Tricks is a solid choice Yu-Gi-Oh strategy right now. This deck literally ducks hand traps like how my father has been ducking child support, and is really good at being able to address decks when going first. I think its only big problems is just summoning big chunky monsters before they can drop hold of them. Yumi was put in here by you guys' request. You guys want to know what I think about it. Ironically, for a water deck, throw it in a volcano. I mean, I guess there are underwater volcanoes, right? This deck immediately loses to cards like evenly matched Kaijus in just better Yu-Gi-Oh decks right now. Unfortunately, Yumi's gonna need a little bit more support to be able to compete. Unchained, my boys. I don't care what you say. Unchained is crazy good. Unchained is another strategy that can dodge Dolan Lockbird, as well as destroy multiple cards, which can be a problem for back row heavy deck. It's also really hard to counter Unchained in itself if you're a deck that is built on destroying your opponent's cards because you'll trigger their effects. And if you are a deck that needs your monsters, being able to link off your opponent's monsters before they can get the best use for them is really, really good. It's almost like this deck is filled with Kaijus. Volcanics have the potential to be one of the better decks in Yu-Gi-Oh right now, but I really find it hard to figure it out. I'm gonna put it in experimental because like Battling Boxers, the support did go the right way. The only problem is the deck seems a little bit slow to take off and very interruptible. I will also admit that I probably shouldn't have put Vanquish Soul in the budget tier list. I forgot about Rock the Vanisher. That card kind of expensive. Regardless, Vanquish Soul is a top rogue Yu-Gi-Oh deck. It has been consistently topping just about everywhere. It's really, really good. And lastly, Zombies, my boy, by you guys' request. The Ghost Fusion zombie decks that I did for a video was really, really fun. Unfortunately, it's just really, really fun. In the volcano you go, my friend. Zombies didn't really get any new support out of Battles of Legends Monstrous Revenge, but this deck is still really fun to play. I just wouldn't play it in a competitive setting. And that's all that I have for the Rogue tier list, big dog. Let me know what you think about where I put these decks. Did I rank one a little bit too high? Did I rank one a little bit too low? Also, of course, if you want to see more amazing content, you already know what to do. Check out these videos. So I'll catch you on the next one.